Welcome to the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fans podcast. You idiots, I'm just laughing at these clowns just trying to make faces at me in the background. On this episode of the ET Stand podcast, we are going to work out why, stop it, you idiots. We're going to try and work out what a dynasty is and if the Cronulla Sharks can ever build one of their own. We're just not content with one premier. These idiots in the background, I'm going to stop them from pulling faces at me. Let's just bring them in. That is Boldo's Tears. Chris Kelly, who would you move?
Where do we start? I'm glad Boldo didn't grow up in Egypt times because that's a terrible looking pyramid. It would have fallen over and collapsed by now. And given that he just Googled the squad and put Matt Ikuvalu in the bottom and he hasn't been there since half of last year, our pyramid would have fallen over.
He's still on the page.
The pyramid would have fallen over. You would have been missing a foundation piece and it's fallen over.
Maloney is still intercept. Away goes James Maloney. They're kicking him home, the Sharks fans. Maloney is there. Healy. It's Healy has scored on his departure day. Mitch Healy gets a try. The crowd have gone absolutely bereft.
In amongst all of that, Lats had an awesome story about how awesome this Finau guy was, and then Boldo concludes it with like, yeah, Finucane, how good is he? And everyone's like,
I don't even know who Finau is. I just assumed that Finau was the same guy as Finucane. Is that a different person? I didn't know that. Who the hell's Finau?
Wow. This is how flawed the tears are. He doesn't even know half the time.
Boldo.
This is where the tears bit comes into it.
I'm listening to the card going, did my stream just like skip 30 seconds or something? Like, no, it was just Boldo just playing along. But anyway.
Peachy, great ball to Campbell. He's away. Campbell to the 30-metre line. Now, Colin Best heading to the corner. Gets it back on the inside. Graham, they're over. Nick Graham has scored. 4 minutes into the game.
Ennis away. Here they are. Pryor. Can he get it there? Yes, he can. Matt Pryor, an unlikely first try scorer for the Sharks.
Interesting enough that the North Bears are getting that desperate. They're talking about having a Pacific Bears team so they can sort of engulf those Pacific nations and sort of get that ball rolling where they think they can sort of, take on the Cook Islands and the Samoans and the Tongas and sort of make it their team. So PNG's to go for me.
I'm pretty convinced after that. All right, Franco, what do you got?
Mate. Can I rebuttal that, or am I giving a different answer?
Go for it. Enough arguments on this podcast. Come on,
you're going to throw out cans, and they're going to play out of cans.
Ever. That is the dumbest idea ever.
Townsend now calling the shots with Johnson off. They will go. Gallen, field goal. Paul Gallen, field goal. That is amazing. That is ridiculous. Away. It's back to Smith. Smith gets it away to Cronk. Cronk's got Korobetti with it. Have they got a chance here? Korobetti's put down. The siren sounds. Cronulla have won it. Cronulla have won it. 14-12. You can turn the light out now.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite-level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated. More often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the E.T. Stand Podcast.
From the doghouse to the penthouse, I went from being kicked off of last week's show to hosting this week. I'll do everything I can not to put the boot into that other host. You know the one, the imposter, the one who dumped this on me last minute. Not that I mind. I love hanging with you guys. Welcome to the ET Stand, the Sharks Fans Podcast, where we let our talking do the football. That said, last time I hosted, I did predict a batch of 3 wins between the buys, and look where that got us. This episode should be a ripper. Lats takes us through his social roundup. We get a mini debrief on the Tigers match, although with the 58-point and a bye this week, there might not be anything mini about it. Williams takes us through the history of 50-plus games and some individual records. Kelly gives us his around the league, and we can't not talk about that Kennedy situation. Then we wrap it all up with a little bit of show and tell, not to mention plenty of shenanigans from our listeners and commenters, no doubt. Speaking of, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new, or if you're not and haven't done so yet, get to it. Spotify listeners, you're welcome to follow and rate the pod as well. Leave us a comment, and if there's any other platform you'd like to see or hear us on, let us know and we'll see what we can do. So, who's with me on this glorious night? We have Williams, who I understand watched the Tigers match through a crowded bar without any sound. Have you had a chance to watch it back yet, mate?
Not with any sound at all. I've just sat with I have seen some highlights, but not the full match with any audio. So I should go back and check out Dan Ganane's finest. I was meaning to say welcome Starscream, for a Transformer reference. Starscream, our fearless leader. But yeah, it was a good win. I was watching it at the Orange Hotel. Shout out to them, and also a little speakeasy bar there called Washington and Co. Having a few expensive but very delicious scotches, and it was a nice surprise because I thought we were up a bit of Pooh Creek midway through the first half when we was a 12-6 up, but we were turning the ball over in bad positions. I'm not going to call Ronnie out, but I'm going to call Ronnie out a few times. He turned over in poor field position and put us under pressure, and just some poor options. And then all of a sudden we grounded out. The Appy sin bin scored, then the intercept. So I thought the halftime score flattered us, and then obviously the second half was a complete and utter annihilation, which was great to see. So it's great to be back in the winners list. And surely, if you judge it on 3 matches, if it was like an aggregate soccer result, we smashed it. Came home strong, and the for and against saw us win at the end of the day. So don't be too harsh on yourself on that 0-3 or 1-3 prediction compared to your 3-3. But yeah, 3-3 would have been nice.
Mm-hmm. Very good. We've got Lats, who had to go through the recycling bin after he realised a family member threw out all of his Sharks memorabilia. Did you manage to get any of it back, buddy?
Yeah, mate, that was a while ago. I won't go into what it was because it was quite obscure, but all good, mate. Managed to come up with something for show and tell later on that I'm excited to share with everyone.
Excellent. And CK, the human roller coaster with the highs and the lows of this past week. Glad to see you survived, mate. Be honest. Was it Origin tomorrow night that kept you going?
We're still not going to go there. We've left it out and around the league. It doesn't exist. I just finally got to a game at Shark Park, so I was quite excited about that. And back to the fields and the usual shenanigans of our usual tickets not working to get into the ground. So nothing was missed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very true, very true. I'm glad that I wasn't there to go through that punishment, but you guys hopefully got it all sorted for me next game. All right. Well, this week certainly didn't disappoint on or off the field, and plenty of fans have had their say. Lats, do you want to take us through the socials?
Let's go. Alrighty, Sharks fans have been left outraged throughout the socials with the league's decision to sanction Will Kennedy for his accidental contact on Adam G in Friday night's trouncing of the West Tigers at PointsBet Stadium. And we're urging for Sharks to fight the charge. I'm personally baffled by the decision. I'm only assuming they were possibly told it wouldn't be worth challenging or read between the lines in Graham Annesley's inept analysis of the incident and him vowing to protect the referees going forward. I think this is a terrible call. He only had eyes for Iro and was following the break, steps around a player and bang, there's Adam G running an escort. Fans stating G should have got 10 in the bin. Sharks fans were thrilled amongst the socials to see how well Atco and Tricky combined in the halves, which saw us light up both sides of the field in attack, but especially that left-hand side attack that's been missing of late, and how nicely Atkinson complemented that side in setting up our backline plays. Fans have also, there's been plenty of talk around moving Nico to 6 when he's fit and keeping Tricky at 7, just so we can keep that left edge going in attack there. So it's good to see how well they combined. There's also been huge amounts of heartache and support been flooding through the socials for young forward Jesse Calhoun, with him sustaining a serious knee injury 7 minutes into his on-field stint last Friday night, which today was confirmed by the club to be an ACL rupture, and we'll see Jesse miss the remainder of this season and majority of next. This is particularly devastating given his run of injuries the last couple of seasons, where in both 2023 and 24 he suffered serious foot injuries in the trials, which saw him miss the first half of the seasons. Our thoughts and well wishes go out to Jesse during this difficult time. Sharks NRLW squad had a solid hit out against premiership favourites the Sydney Roosters over the weekend, with the final result being a 20-all draw. Sharks took a 12-0 lead into the break before resting stars Emma Tonegado and Quincy Dodd. Tricolours fired back early in the second half with a quick double. Sharks then took back the lead and took it out to 20-12, with another late surge to the Roosters, which saw them score in the final play of the match to make it 20-all. Given the star power we have in our team, I'd throw a lazy lobster on them to win the comp this year. They're paying $9 at the moment. They've firmed in from 12 over the weekend, and I think the girls are a massive smoky to take out the title this year. Moving on, a commanding 44-18 win over the fifth-place Canterbury Bulldogs saw the high-flying Jets secure equal third position with the Roosters in the knock-on effect New South Wales Cup over the weekend, which saw young gun Liam Eason, we'll get to that, bag a hat-trick. Tapua opened the scoring in the second minute, with tries also to Jaden Beryl, fan favourite Billy Magoulias and Khaled Rahab, which would have been really enjoyed scoring against his old club there, with Niwai Puru perfect with a boot, converting all 7 tries and slotting a penalty goal also. They're looking good, the Jets, given how many of their stars were promoted in the first grade lineup last week. We go on to play 10th place Knights in Newcastle at 3 p.m. this Saturday, with us only playing one team ahead of us on the ladder before season's end, which puts us in a really healthy position to take out the title this year. So go the Blue Bags. And finally, boys, Sharkies fans amongst the socials are calling for the club to replace our cursed black jerseys with last week's Heritage 95 jersey, and I tend to agree with them. The jersey looks sensational on the field. I'd love for this change to be made. I'm still yet to get my hands on one, but given it's my birthday this week, I'm hopeful to bag one. So family, if you're watching, get amongst it. Cheers. That's it, boys, for the socials this week.
Very good, mate. Gosh, I did feel for poor Colhoun there as well. I was charging. I was super happy. I was glad to see him running around and celebrating with the boys after that Ueli try, and then to go down. Geez, that was hard to take. Certainly felt for him.
Yeah,
I did take over. Okay.
Oh, sorry. It was looking promising on the night, the way that he was reacting initially, and that he was obviously getting around with some ice on it and a bit of a smile on his face, which was hopefully looking promising for something less significant. But the fear from the very get-go was that ACL, and unfortunately devastating for him, given he's only just come back from, what did he have earlier? Was it a pec injury or something? I can't recall. And then injury problems.
Broken foot. From the trials, against the doggies.
Yeah, that's right. And then injury issues last year as well. So hopefully he can get a good run from here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was promising to see the NRLW, right? Obviously, trial shenanigans did well before resting a few people. So, yeah, I agree with you, lads. It's a promising season ahead.
They
Roosters
were.
are favourite,
It's a bit hard
aren't
to
they?
tell. Yeah, Roosters are. They're $3.50 favourites. The Roosters. And given that I think we've recruited quite well for this season. Given that though, also in that game they weren't converting goals, so it was just tries only. But it's good to see that they were strong in attack there.
Yeah, 5 tries each.
Yeah, brilliant.
Nice.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, last Friday saw us take on the West Tigers, a team who had 40 put on them the previous 2 weeks running, but did manage to beat us 32 points to 6 back in round 3. What followed was a Sharks clinic, toppling them 58 points to 6, looking every part the dominant team that we should. Now, Williams, after a performance like that, is this a terrible time for the bye, or doesn't it matter?
I think I don't think you can say arbitrary does a good time or not. I think it actually is a good time given the context of our season. So we just lost Colquhoun. We've had some, I suppose, problems with our forward pack with regards to there been talk for a long time of, hey, Tommy needs a spell, guys need a break, people need a rest. We had a 7-day turnaround and everyone looked up for it, which is obviously very different to the last few home games, obviously over a long period of time. But the Panthers game and the Dolphins game stand out in absolutely horrific starts where the team just completely missed it. The other night they had it and they maintained charging till the end. So I'd say it is a good time, despite the fact that we had some form. It's just an opportunity to rest and reset before the finals. I think you'd probably ideally like it 1 week later, but you don't want it too close to the finals as well. Depends on it's situation dependent. So if we had a whole stack of injuries or niggles right close to the finals, you might want it. But then you see a lot of other clubs start to make their run from late July, August into the finals, get some form up, and then hit the ground running. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, Lats. 3 of our big boppers went into this under the ear of fans. How did Hazelton, Ueli, and Rudolph perform, and did they earn to keep their spot next game?
Yeah, mate, I think so. I thought Hazelton was back to his old best this game. I thought he came on strong, made an impact. Ueli was in absolute beast mode when he kicked that door down to when he scored that try, and he nearly scored another 2. Toby, I thought Toby was better. I still would like to see Tapua in the side. So I don't know if Fitzy's got his, got a bit of a conundrum there, but all in all, it was a strong performance from all 3, mate, and I was pretty happy with what I saw. I just hope we can keep Ueli in the team long term and without all these little breaks that he's been having, and keep building his confidence there going forward.
Yeah, he's certainly an asset when he's performing well, isn't he?
Yep.
So good to see him. Good to see him on the park like that. CK, as mentioned, the Tigers had 40 put them in the 2 previous weeks, and even the Dragons put 56 points on them. What do we take out of this? Is it just the Tigers or a good performance from us? What's your take on that?
Oh, I think it's column A, column B. Like William said, we started off a bit faster this time, and the boys look up for it. I wish we had that secret sauce of a Melbourne Storm team where they look like that every single week. They don't have an off game, and even when they are a little bit 5% off, they turn up and sort of sneak away with a win. It was the Tigers, so it was hard to celebrate at the end. But as we spoke about, they got us in round 3, and it wasn't as fun back then. And I think it was right time for our team to find a bit of form. I know a lot of fans spoke on Elise Atkinson and Trindle got a bit of sort of training run together, and it was more like a trail, if not a training run, against a lower grade team. I saw Williams 2.0 say that Tigers team probably wouldn't beat an A-grade team, and I'm probably tend to agree. It was very lackluster for a team that sort of had their ups during the season, but a lot more downs. And I just think it was good timing for us coming off a couple of tough losses, and we needed a bit of a spark in that team going into a bye. I don't care if it was the Tigers or anyone else. At least we put 50 on a team, and it wasn't us copping it and get away with a victory and move on to the next. So hopefully a bit of confidence out of those guys and moving into the next couple of weeks, because like we spoke on the games ahead appear easy draw-wise and ladder-wise, but they aren't. We all know they're not. We go up to North Queensland. We've got South visiting us. We've got the Warriors who have been up and down as well. We've got the Titans again up in Gold Coast who have been up at the moment. And then, of course, Manly last round. We know we don't have a good go winning at Brookvale or a record against Manly over there with Turbo back. So I think we just need that little spark. So I was happy to enjoy it, but I gave a little golf clap as we walked off it wasn't as much vigour singing up Cronulla.
Yeah, there's talk about soft draw on the way into the finals. I don't think so, given what I completely agree with what Kelly's saying with who we're playing and where we're playing them. I think if we play like we did pre this match, there's a very real chance you finish the season 0-5, and that could see you miss the finals. So it's something to build on. But yeah, a bit of a mid-season trial reset. I was surprised, I suppose, watching the show the other night involving some Tigers, I suppose, expertise, how much they'd changed their side up. That caused all kinds of mayhem in their defensive structure. There was a lot of poor misses by them. It's good to win, but I don't think you can celebrate too hard on this one.
Yeah, it was, I mean, look, a win's a win, but a big win like that is always enjoyable. I know I enjoyed the weekend off the back of that, so we'll take it for what it is. I think it's certainly one of those scenarios of you can only play what's in front of you, but, you know, we were all a little bit hesitant. None of us predicted a blowout score like that. Some of us were a little bit concerned, especially given the previous 2 weeks, and Tigers had beaten us in the past. We have proven to not be great against the lower teams lately. And I think just not only winning, but winning dominantly was a pretty good sign. Random question off the cuff, I guess, maybe to you, Lats. The score line or the defense, what was better for you there, the attack or the defense from us?
Mate, given how clunky the Tigers were, I'd have to say the attack from us. In saying that period we had there where they had about 15 sets on our line and we managed to hold them out was brilliant, which is nice to see. But yeah, that big score line, that big win helps our for and against where we've sort of gone off the track the last sort of month or so, and it's nice to get that on the board. Yeah,
that's true. I guess it's one of those games that, you know, I'll do that every week. I'm sorry. I'm just happy to see scores like that, and awesome. And as I mentioned, Try July was just cherry on top with a lot of guys getting to have a crack. All right. Now, is there anything else you want to talk about before we move on to the next element? Because I know you guys missed the debrief video. You might want to have an extra say of something that we missed on the night.
Boldo, ye of little faith when it came to my knowledge of points and records and the like, but I'll just leave that there. He did retract it. But yeah, good points. Tommy with a great take. Ronnie with a hat trick, which is always nice to see, and he's just rocketed. We'll talk about his exploits in a sec. And just that period, where we held them out, the Tigers had the potential to start all right. Appy's obviously very clever for them, so it did fall apart, but they showed some I suppose indications there they could have done something a bit more. And funnily enough, where I was, everyone was willing to tell me how much money they'd put on the Tigers, so that was always nice to see them lose their money in our favour. So, and I don't actually pre-match. I didn't blame them though. The price that the Tigers were playing and how we were paying. And how we were playing. But yeah, it was a nice surprise.
CK, should Appy have been binned?
100%. It was a very harsh call, but it was given that we'd made a break off that, and he stepped around the marker to play at the arms or the ball. It was a harsh, and I understand why he was standing there arguing for a while. It turned into a bit of a Cameron Smith situation where he was refusing to leave the field. I don't know. I thought we were going to get a Shane Hayne versus David Peachey where he's going to get sent the way he was sort of standing there for that long. I will say, though, I'll back up Boldo, and he didn't actually bring it up that night. He brought it up later, was we should have taken the 2 at that stage because it was 12-6 and it was right in front. A lot of teams do like to take the 2 in that situation and go back and reset with your extra man on the field. And then, Franco, you were saying before, you will take those wins every week. Well, Boldo broke the cardinal rule and brought a couple of Tigers fans along, and I know Blake brought one along as well with himself, and those poor guys were just going through it. Like, they were just sitting there just hating life. And they're like, we're used to this for 12 years. I'm like, yeah, it sucks. And that's why you got to kind of enjoy these massive victories. Like, everyone goes, settle down, it was the Tigers, but like I keep saying, you could be the Tigers, you could be the Eels, you could be the Knights, you could be the Broncos, you could be the Wars, like sitting there bottom 8 and just wondering if it's actually going to happen, whereas we're actually winning well. And I did comment a couple of times on the debrief about some certain situations in that game, but yeah, we'll just take it. Ronnie's was spectacular, but the one poor thing for the Tigers was every time they made a break, I think we got 3 intercepts off their line break. So they were all up, ready, thinking they're going to score a try, and all of a sudden the ball snatched and we're going the other direction. It was quite harsh to sort of cheer it on. So those poor Tigers fans.
That's awesome. That's really good. Yeah, you're right, mate. Happy to be on top. Winners are grinners for sure. Well, I see a lot of comments here from guys, commenters talking about positional changes and who should play fullback. We're going to get to some of those comments a little bit later on. Our fearless leader has stuffed up the position of what we're going to be talking about and when. So that's not going to happen just yet. We are going to skip that and come back to it and talk about, since we are talking about 50-point games, Williams has been diving deep into the ocean of 50-pluses. What have you got for us, mate? Now, there is a bit of a caveat here. Poor Williams was thrown into the deep end of not getting time to put any of his presentation together. So I've done it, and he hasn't seen it. So this will be interesting to see how we go. See if we were on a similar vein, but mate,
sounds good to me. Just before we do that, I might just throw a bit of a segue back the other way and just shout out to Benjamin Turner, who did quote and say that the Tigers scored 28 points versus Melbourne. That's very true. So the Tigers can score points, as we saw and have seen throughout the season. David Balderman qualifying, saying that he thought it was Williams 2.0, a regular call-in and a good fan of the show. So I'm not sure what it says about you, Williams 2.0, about how much Baldo believes there, but I think Baldo was pretty committed. He was justifying his decision before he realised that he was incorrect. But we'll talk about individual point scoring records shortly. Now we will look at 50-point scores before we look at fullback options and the like. So I know you guys know the answer to this because I've been rabbiting on about it in the group chat. But for our audience, how many times have we broken the half century? How many times? We've spoken about it previously. Here's a bit of a rest of the list. Is it over or under 10 times? Well, Chris Kelly there. He's dialed in already. He didn't need to phone a friend. We've only done it 9 times. Now, when was the first time we did it? It was pretty late in our lifetime, I suppose, as Sharks, as a club. It was 1999 that year we remember well. So that might, rate in the top 5. But looking at the bottom 5, and Franco did mention in the debrief the other night, he said, I wonder where Williams would place this win over the Tigers. I agree with Kelly. You have to love these wins. You have to enjoy them. You never know when your luck and your time at the top of the table is going to run out. So lap it up while you can. But I wouldn't put this in the top 5. That was obviously our most recent. We did put 50 on the Dragons last year, and that was very close to entering. But just because the Dragons were at the time so diabolical, I didn't include it. But that was a great Thursday night, 52 points to 16 there in 2023. The win over the Tigers.
The one in the wet, Williams?
Over the Dragons. It was a bit of a, I think
down in Wollongong?
This one was a Thursday night last year. Thursday night, they scored early. So they scored early, I believe, through, who was it, their winger? There was some lippy Dragons fans behind us in the ET stand before we very quickly turned things around and started laying the points on. Nickera got a double. Who was it early in the second half? I've forgotten his name, but for them scored a ripper try, which was actually really poor defense by us. Ran the length of the field, kind of a bit like, well, basically identical distance in that we'd put a kick downfield, identical to the one that the Hammer scored against us a few weeks ago. So went downfield, a few poor attempted tackles, and then he's gone the length to turn it back in the Dragons' favour, put him back within 8 after half time, and then we ran away with it. So we put 50 points on, and it was a late try, I think, to Nickera and a kick by Hines to make it 52 in the end, but 52-16 there. We put 50 on the Tigers back in the COVID-affected 2021 season. That was at Redcliffe. We conceded 20 points there. That was the game where Ronaldo made a break and there was no one near him, and he passed it to to Metcalf to score his very first NRL try. Funnily enough, I was at work at the time in Newcastle, listening on the radio, and Dan Ganane was commentating for Triple M, your mate, and him and Gordon Tallis were absolutely giving Ronaldo a pasting, calling him everything under the sun, from an unprofessional goose to all the above. You go and watch the Fox coverage, and I can't remember if it was Warren Smith or Andrew Voss talking about how good a moment that was, that Ronaldo handing off a try-scoring opportunity, which otherwise would have been, I think, a hat-trick for him, gave it to Metcalf, and then Ronaldo broke his jaw and didn't play again that season. And then we put this is definitely the worst team of all this, probably close to our worst team on paper ever. 2003, we conceded 34 points to Souths, but we still scored 54. And do you remember what match that game came immediately after? Chris made mention of it before when he was talking about Appy walking to the bin and a potential situation occurring, which occurred in this match.
Oh, it wasn't the Cam Smith sin bin. That was later than that.
No, I'm talking about 2003. So it was immediately after. It was a talk with your hands game.
That game doesn't exist for me. Look, it should just be wiped out of the record books. There should be 15 asterisks next to it.
So it wasn't a bye. Honestly. It was just a non-event that happened the week before. But anyway, that was immediately after that. So we turned around, conceding 74 to score 54. Sam Eismunger with the only hat-trick of his entire career. Never in the juniors, never anywhere else. And he scores 3 in first grade in a Sharks 54-point score there. But we'll move to the visuals of the top 5. So whenever you're ready, Franco, we'll go through the top 5. Oh, how good. That's awesome, actually. So that's the 1999 event that I was talking about, North Sydney Oval, late in the season. First time in our history that team there. First time in our season that we breached the 50-point margin, and we did it 56-18. It was North Sydney's second last game in their existence at North Sydney Oval, so we wish them all the best in coming back into the competition in whatever form that may be. Hopefully it's the Perth Bears. So that was that one. Plenty of tries that day by plenty of legends in the game. I can give you a quick rundown now while we're there. So as to who scored all the ones. But that was the first one. It was only 5,000 people in attendance. So Norths were pretty ordinary. The tries to Norths were Morrison, Petherbridge and Sears. Taylor with 3 from 4, while for the Sharks, E.T. got a triple. Peachy got a triple. So double hat-tricks to those legends. Brett Howland with a double, Adam Dykes, Chris McKenna the tries, and Matt Rogers with 8 from 10. Moving on to the next one.
Williams, crowd attendance was one of the criteria for making it into the NRL past.
Criteria.
Yeah, and so I'm not surprised to hear that was the case, because I think it came down between us and them, and at that stage it was our attendance that got us over the line.
Probably on-field results as well. If you want to have a listen to a lengthy discussion about criteria and all the like, the Super League podcast on the Rugby League Digest. It's interesting listen, but thankfully we're not there yet, but I have fears for the future. Now, how good are these visuals? This one, 2016, Knights 0, Sharks 62. It's a lot more memorable or recent in the memory. This one, it was the third time we'd breached 60, and only the 6th time we'd gone past 50. So it was a bit of a trend there. We get past 50, we keep on going on with it. On that day, I was living in Newcastle at the time. David Baldwin came up. So did a lot of mates, and my brother and the like came up too. And we were all thinking, oh, good golly, this guy called Jack Cogger and this other guy called Brock Lamb are both on debut or early in their career matches. And gosh, players on debut against Cronulla always seemed to turn up. After 20 minutes, it was still 0-0. We had a pretty ordinary start. We kept dropping the ball. We weren't looking great. The Knights were terrible, but we're thinking, does the streak finish here? Then a first half hat-trick to Valentine Holmes, try to Ben Barber, and a try to Sasai Feki. Quickly turned that into a 30-point halftime lead, which then carried on into a 62-0 win. Other tries, Valentine Holmes with 4. He could have had 5 if he pinned the ears back. He hesitated and got tackled. Feki with a triple. Lewis with a double, Barber and Wade Graham round out scoring. James Maloney with 9 from 11. So that was 62-0 there. To the Knights' credit, they had 16,000.
Can I just say on that game as well, the couple of points out of that, Boldo was in attendance with you, Williams. It was the first time in a while we've seen in socials that he'd actually worn a jersey to a game, and God knows how many
You're right.
years.
You're right.
They made some commemorative pieces, merchandise in regards to the biggest victory and such a large victory, but the Knights were terrible back then. And I remember sharing the score, the full-time score and all the socials on social media, and people going, settle down, it's only the Knights, like, you know, and I go back over those 2016 posts and just laugh at some of the comments because then, you know, we didn't have a crystal ball at the time, but sucked into all you idiots that were giving it to me in 2016 because we know how that season finished. So
you're right. Several things came out of that one. So you're right. There was merchandise there. So it was the equal. We'll talk about the other biggest win, but it equaled the Sharks' record score or margin over a team. So I think I may have been in the Sharks store at the old Leagues Club when that was a thing, and said that was the SH1T-est piece of memorabilia I've ever seen. It's not even a thing. I was standing with David Balderman, and he got it for myself and my lovely wife Lauren as a wedding gift. So thank you, David. So it's proudly on my wall now, and it's a great point. Another point of reference with that, you say that Baldo was wearing merch for probably the one and only time in his life, and that somehow ended up as the Sharks membership drive the following season, 2017, I think. I was at work one night and came downstairs, looked at my phone, and it exploded with all these notifications going, oh, yeah, you're famous. There's a picture of myself and Baldo at this match being used there. I didn't get any discount from the club despite my pleading. And then a side point, the Knights fans, 16,000 people there, they were getting quite lippy. Understandably, their team was going poorly. And the Dane Gagai had a try disallowed right on full time. I think we held him up and he dropped it, and he was in tears. And there was a box just up to the right from where we were, and they were just chanting no premierships, 50 years, 1F all that stuff. And thankfully, only about 6 months later or 5 months later, we won the ultimate match, and that chat finished forever. So that was good times.
Never have to hear that again.
Exactly. That's these kids these days they'll never understand.
45 years away from that.
Yeah, exactly. Even if we go another 45 years without winning one, at least we've won one. So anyway, moving on to the next one. Yeah, I love these visuals. Thank you, mate. They're looking very fancy.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this.
And here we go.
This is so much better than when Baldo's in charge, I'll tell you.
So usually I get us into trouble with getting images.
I did say this last week, Franco.
So here we are. The score that the Knights 62-0 game equaled was the 2005 retro round 68.6 win there. I'll bring that up for us. And that was, a replay of the 1973 and 1978 grand finals, the plural, 3 of them in total. And we ran away with this one too in what was also a close start. It was a pretty highly billed affair, and that both teams were at the bottom of the 8. The 2005 season was a bit of an opportunity lost for the Sharks in that we were top 4, and then the origin period, funnily enough, compared to this year, happened. The Brett Kimmorley intercept, things started to fall apart. And then whichever team won this one late in the season would guarantee their spot in the finals. And lo and behold, we blew out to a 38-point lead at halftime, and then carried on to a 68-6 win. The one blemish being, two blemishes, one being the try to Steve Menzies catching a crossfield bomb, and Michael Witt kicked the goal to make it 6-0. David Balderman talking about the 2 at the end of the match. We've chatted about that, maybe something for people to view at another time. But that 2 points was with regards to make it 70, and 70 in 70s round, which Franco did say on that occasion definitely should have been done. Instead, they tried to put a bomb up to get a try, I believe, for Jason Stevens, he'd scored once on that occasion. I think the plan was for him to try and get a career double. He was getting towards the end of his career. He was retiring only a few weeks afterwards. He had scored earlier in this match, and he'd never scored a career double, so they were looking to get him one. Unfortunately, didn't happen. So the try scorers that day, Nigel Wagner with 3, who famously moved to 5'8", and after cries forever from the fans saying, moving to 5'8", we put him there, and then we didn't do it again until the week 1 finals loss to the Dragons in Wollongong that ended our season. Brett Kimmorley also got a hat-trick. Bo Scott, that guy, got a double. And then individual tries to Paul Gallen, Matt Hilda, Paul Mellor, Jason Stevens. Luke Cavell kicked 10 from 12. One of the Mellor try came off an absolute ripper offload from Clifford Marnua as he looked gone for all money, 3 guys on him, falling on the line, and he's just somehow, the ball rockets out between a whole stack of bodies, and Paul Mellor just dives down and scores. And I think that was the one right on half time that made it 38-0. So a great day out that afternoon at Shark Park with the old scoreboard. I think I've got an old phone, some old Nokia thing that probably still fire up if I turned on. It wouldn't get reception anymore with 3G now gone, but it's got photos of the classic old scoreboard with the old clock and the figure and the big boards indicating Shark 68, Manly 6. So great afternoon there. Any memories for this one, you guys? I thought you were all there.
We obviously talked about it before.
I was working, but yeah, obviously.
Mate, I can't remember the Tigers one.
If you look, I think it's a try. If you got the coverage is available online, you see a young me in the background of a Luca Bell kick after I think it was a try in the corner. Which one was that one? Anyway, it's about midway through the second half.
It's not all about you, Williams.
No, but you can see into the 2000s, I suppose, what do you call it? Fashion. I was wearing some speed dealers, so for the Sunnies. Anyway, so moving right along.
I don't know if we talked on that game or we did it in the preseason. Me and Boldo attended that. We were down at the northern end and then watching all these tries. Let's go and sneak down the southern end. So we snuck back down the southern end and watched all the rest of the tries. It was unbelievable. And then got David Peachy to sign like a big A4 photo of Peachy. Come over and signed it nice and long. But yeah, which is I can still picture that. You know, there was grandstand there, so it was the old scoreboard and the slats running across and the old hills. So it was a nice sunny Sunday. It was unbelievable.
It was a great sunny Sunday afternoon. It was one of our first times wearing the retro jersey now that is our standard.
Yeah, the retro LG
design. Yeah. Yes, the retro LG. The first time we wore that was in 2002 against Souths, and then we wore it kind of once a season. Now we get the luxury of wearing the old Reebok jersey or the old Pepsi jersey as our retro ones, which makes us feel very old. Myself at the ripe old age of mid-30s, but that was wearing the Hoops jersey for the one and only time that year, apart from the semi-final against or quarter-final against Dragons, but good times. Anyway, moving right along, this one was the second time we made 50 points. I reckon it's still one of the best Sharks games of all time, but it was hindered a little bit by the Bulldogs being injury affected. Go back and listen to our Chronicles episode about that one, where we talk about just days after the events of September 11, 2001. We'd beaten the Broncos in the first week of the finals on a wet Friday night with a Paul Miller hat-trick. The Bulldogs limped into the final or into the second week with a lot of injuries. We went in largely unaffected by injury. Unfortunately, Adam Dykes would pick up a knee injury. And absolutely pasted them 52 points to 10. And the only reason it comes second is because of the slight injury-affected nature of the Bulldogs there, where the follow-up one we'll talk about in a second was against a full-strength side. So 52-10 it was. We absolutely carved up on a sunny Sunday afternoon at the old Sydney Football Stadium. And I'll just go through the try scorers there for you. Have a look at our full episode for the full experience. But and so many, I suppose you can watch the full replay on YouTube. You can watch the highlights. Tries to Preston Campbell with a double, Jason Ferris with a double, Colin Best, Nick Graham, Martin Lang with the second try over his career. What was his name? Luke Stewart and Matt Rogers. Rogers kicked 7 from 9, Dykes 1 from 1, while for the Bulldogs it was Steve Price and Willie Talau the tries. Hazem El Mesri 1 from 2. Any thoughts or comments on these ones before we move to the big one?
Chris and I know this one well. We'd had a big Saturday night session on the Tui's extra dries. I stayed at Chris's place on the Saturday night down on Barony Bay Road, and we came up with some, I don't know why, but to run across Barony Bay Road every time we scored with a flag. I don't know how we didn't get cleaned up, but that is the day that I lost my Super League jersey, so I was devastated. It's probably under the tyre of a car still somewhere, I'm not sure.
Oh, it would be worth a lot now, or maybe nothing at all. But anyway, it was
back in the days of. Funnily enough, we were going to wait till the 4 o'clock coverage.
Yeah.
But it was back in the days of when the game wasn't on till 4 o'clock on TV. So we were listening. We couldn't wait, so we listened to it on radio. So we listened to every try. And every time they scored, we run out, wave the flag. we were scoring that often, we'd run back inside. Another try, we'd have to go back outside again. It was killing the hangover. But
yeah, my soccer presentation was that day, and you're right with the having to wait till 4 p.m. So I got home, and the old dial-up internet was taking forever, and I'm like, I'll sneak a look at the score. I think they're trying to listen on the radio. That was halftime, and they're like, it's 24-4. I'm like, what? How good's this? And then watch the full coverage afterwards. I think I saw that Martin Lang had scored. Like, how good's that? And that still is the highlight. The Stevens for Lang. Anyway, we'll carry on to the next one before we bore people too much. Enjoy this too much. I just don't want to put the mock on us now. Watch us lose every match from here on in. Anyway, 2002, it will be a Chronicles episode in a few weeks' time when we play the Knights at home, 64-14, running into the finals in 2002. The back page of the Sun Herald was Phil Gould talking about why the Sharks' winning streak at the time will finish this afternoon. The Knights are the reigning premiers. Joey Johns was in peak form. The Knights had smashed us 52-8 in the famed Andrew versus Matthew Johns battle early in 2002. And we were on a bit of a run, and no one would predict what would follow there. 42 points to nil it was at halftime. The Knights were never in it, and they had a full-strength premiership winning side. We were without Matthew Johns, who had been replaced by Jai Mullane, and that was basically the main out for us. But it was only the third time we breached the 50-point margin. The first time ever we'd put 60 points on a side. Shires was here's the try scoring list. It was a hat-trick to Matthew Reek, a double to Brett Camorley, double to Paul Mellor, including a fantastic one running the length of the field in front of the ET stand down to the southwestern corner, just absolutely pasting Anthony Quinn with about 5 massive don't argue fend-offs, including basically I'm surprised Quinn's not just still lying in the dirt there. David Peachy with the double, Chris McKenna and Dean Treaster, the try scorers. Brett Camorley, 10 from 12. And our lineup that day was something to behold, as was the Knights, and the final score, 64-14. Just unbelievable. And I remember, too, watching it, and Joey Johns spat the dummy something hard. The Knights scored, actually, the final try, and he actually threw, they offered him a kick. He threw the ball away. I think he just stormed off. He didn't even stay for interviews or anything. And Daniel Abraham, that got left to take the kick, and he shanked it from out wide. So Joey kicked 1 from 2, Abraham none from 1. And Joey, a bit of a sore loser there, but 64-14 the final score. The Knights' record loss, we would then break the record against them for their biggest loss with that 62-0 win in 2016. We'll look at this more in depth in a few weeks' time. But boys, any closing comments?
Say not.
It was many cons there, right? It was the
silence is golden.
Yeah. I think there was a bit of shell shock from that match at the time as well.
Probably shell shock from me talking just then. I think no one reacted. Yeah, you're right, Franco. It was awesome. Were you working that day?
I was, yeah.
How good.
It was pumping, that's for sure.
That was the moment we.
I want to know what Boldo's thoughts are when you said Matthew Johns was our only out for the day.
Yeah, replaced by Jai Mullane in jersey 18 on debut. And then, finished.
So killed it.
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah, that's it. We'll look at that in depth later. But yeah, if you've got a favourite big win, put in the comments. Go from there. Now we'll roll into, I suppose, try scorers. Well, we got a top 5 all time. Topical. Sorry, am I stealing your intro here, Franco? Or do you want me to just
No, mate, this is you. Just keep rolling through. I've just done the visuals.
So going into the match just gone, Ronaldo Militalo was on 75 tries, as was the great Matthew Rogers, who was also on 75 tries. We know full well that Ronaldo scored a hat-trick of the weekend, so he's now moved into outright 4th. David Bolden with a comment for our Spotify listeners saying Matthew Johns sucks. Worst Shark signing ever. I think Corey Hughes, Adam Cuthbertson, and many others say hi to that one, but we'll discuss that at another day. So Matt Rogers, 75, is now 5th. He's been surpassed by Ronaldo. He didn't make it to his dad Steve Rogers' tally of what's the total there? Not sure the total there. He's on 83, I think. and Steve Rogers. I'll look at the amount of games it took each player to get to these milestones. So for Matt Rogers, it took him 123 matches to get to 75 tries. His final try was in his final game for the club, the infamous 2001 prelim final loss to the eventual premiers Newcastle. It was our first try that day. So he took 123 games. Ronaldo, here's the standout. So he took just 101 games to make it to 75 tries. He's 75th, coming against the Dolphins in round 15 this year, where we lost on that Thursday night. His hat-trick on the weekend, that was game number 104. So Ronaldo is absolutely flying at his try return tally. You look at Steve Rogers, who is the next one, and his number of games getting to 75 was actually 176. And he's came in the 46-24. Sorry, he's at 75th try, came in the 15 points to 8 home win over the Eastern Suburbs Roosters in round 3 of 1982. And then it took him a fair while longer. It took him another 7 games to score another 3 tries. So in game 188, he scored in a 26-11 win over Balmain at Leichhardt to make 78 tries. So you look at that, 188 matches versus Ronaldo's done in 104. So Ronnie's flying. We move on to the next in the tally. David Peachey's number 2 on the all-time list with 110 tries. And to get to 75 tries, he scored his 75th in the 46 points to 24 win over the Northern Eagles at Brookvale Oval in 2002. We remember that one well. That was game 156 for the Peach. And then he scored, famously enough, a few weeks later in the match we were just talking about, he scored his 78th try in the 64-14 win over the Knights at Shark Park in round 22, 2002. That was game 159. So moving on to the all-time great, and I think it's still a big question as to whether he'll meet this guy's tally, Andrew Eddingshausen. He had 166 in total to get to 75 tries. He did that in round 18 of 1990, a 28 points to 6 loss to the Darsley Dragons at Cogra. And that was game 152 for ET. And then he made it to 78 tries in a 44 points to 4 win over Balmain in round 2, 1991. That was game 157. So the closest to Ronaldo's return was Matt Rogers, 123 games to make 75 tries. But the others, cool. ET and the Peach did about 150, while Steve Rogers took about 180 games. So Ronaldo is absolutely flying. Anyone who, before we talk about fullbacks and the like, anybody who gives our potential debutant fullback or winger a pasting if they have a shocker on debut clearly doesn't remember Ronaldo's debut. Absolutely diabolical. We found out about 12 seconds before kickoff because Josh Dugan had an injury like he tends to do in 2019 in Brisbane, but Ronnie has kicked on so well since then. He could have had plenty more too. You look at the 2 tries last year, he absolutely butchered against South and the Bulldogs. So yeah, he's hopefully he's talked about in Alex Johnston-like discussions, given he's in, I suppose, season 5 of his career. He's still only 24, isn't he? We'll see where he goes from here.
Still young, yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks very much for that, Williams. That was really good.
Comment. It will take 2 seconds. Braden Trindle, interestingly enough, as we're talking about, 22 points. He just needed to convert a try to beat or to meet and tie Brett Kamali's record. Funnily enough, Matt Rogers, he scored 22 points on 3 occasions throughout his career, as did Brett Kamali as well. So he's the 6th person. And Blaine Stanley as well in a win over the Cowboys in 1999. So Trindle in good company there as a, I suppose, top 6 on the individual point scoring tally list.
Nice one. Well, I can't believe that we haven't hit 10 games of 50 plus points. That was the real shocker to me. Maybe we'll crack it this season. Fingers crossed there. All right, CK, you've been itching to have at it. Are you ready to give us around the league?
Yeah, well, I just decided to steal Latz's homework this week, but we'll start off with the bye this week. Obviously, the Sharks have got the bye in round 20 this week, so we really don't care. I know Boldo won't watch any football this weekend, but a bit of news around there with Nathan Cleary returning from his second hamstring injury. We've got Jamal Fogarty returning for the Raiders. We've lost Tohu Harris for the season, who's having wrist surgery, and Jai Arrow for South has got out for the season as well with shoulder injury, and the Bulldogs get back Jacob Preston. So a couple of ins, couple of outs, and we'll see what happens the rest of this week. So the rest of my league league roundup is centered around the Sharks. I thought we'd focus on it. So obviously we're going into Latz's same picture with the Sharks NRLW. Like you said, the girls had a 20-20 draw because goals don't matter and 40 against doesn't matter. So good to see a end of a hit out. Interesting enough, guys, if you went there on Friday night, they presented the women's team, and all clubs seemed to do that over the weekend, where they were presented on the field at halftime and given a round of applause. Like Lat said, I think we're pretty primed in this season. The Roosters did lose one of their star players to an ACL injury also, and another one to a shoulder injury, so they might be firming out. So if like Latz's tippy of the Sharks women's to get onto the premiership, I'd jump on there now before the games start, because the games start next week and the girls line up with us against the Cowboys up there in North Queensland next week.
Bet with your head not over it.
Again, like Lat spoke on, the Jets had a massive win over the Bulldogs. Big Took scored in the second minute. He also had 2 try assists, and it will be a segue into our next subject, which is young Ison getting a hat-trick in this game. So I'm sure we'll touch on it, the next subject, which also rolls into the Will Kennedy disaster. So going through the socials, I sort of had a look around to see what anyone else said, and it was like I told Franco earlier in the pre-show. Most commentary around this was laughable because everyone loves when the ref falls over. Any comments I saw from opposing fans or our own fans was just in absolute disbelief, and it's quite harsh. I got to watch Graham Ansley's dribble again on a Monday morning, and he kind of explained that, well, if players are out there touching officials, we've got to stamp it out, which we totally agree with. But if you've seen before when Jerome Blue Eyes actually tapped the touch judge on the shoulder and said, "Good job, mate," and didn't even see a fine out of that, I don't know where he's actually talking out of. He also talked on Coruscant sin binning and said that, yes, he might have been square, but the Sharks had the roll and he stepped around the marker, which put him offside and reached out and played at the arm. So I don't know how he explained that one, so it was quite harsh. So I was just segueing into his replacement for this week, because I know there's a big game tomorrow night, but we don't really care, and we have a bye this week. So it was a quick little league roundup, mostly Shark-based, but like I said, I was just stealing off Lats. Go for it, Lats.
Yeah, mate, it's interesting around the Kennedy one. Even all the media outlets were screaming for us to challenge that ruling. It was just ridiculous. Anyway, we'll get to that in the next.
We'll do a whole other subject in a second, but yeah, I did not see one league article in a positive light saying the NRL was correct in stamping
Interesting
down
discussion.
I'm sure we'll go into that next.
Didn't Luai push a referee out of the way last year? He was in his way while attempting to make a tackle, and
no, he was
said.
actually. It was worse than that. He was attempting to join the try celebration.
Oh, was he? Oh,
yeah.
Gosh, right.
Yeah, there was also up against Brisbane. There was a little melee push and shove, like Franco said. There was a celebration, a bit of push and shove, and he actually shoved the touch judge out of the way and pushed him on the shoulder, and nothing came out of it. And I know his biggest fan of Paul Crawley was screaming for him to be hung from the roof, but yeah, nothing was done out of that. So I'm sure we're going to roll into a bit of Kennedy replacement, but I reckon. What do you reckon, Franco? Should we just fire off it now while we're here?
No, let's save it. Let's save it. We got plenty to go. I've got new visuals for Kennedy.
All right.
Good one.
Let's
go. Bring it.
On a side point, I don't want to bring up Origin, but is this maybe it's just me? I listen to SEN. Is this not the flattest kind of build up for an Origin decider ever? Like, does anyone care? The NRL season.
It was a bit of discussion tonight about Danny Wilder stoking the fire, saying there might have been an issue between Cobbo and Slater, and it was the first time Slater had heard about it, and he was a bit prickly about it, and he was a bit annoyed about it. And then Fox obviously tonight played on not The Question or Slater, they played on 2 Channel 9 colleagues maybe having an awkward conversation during the week. So they had their little shot at Channel 9 in regards to it. But yeah, Phil Rothfield jumped on Monday night on 360 and started to agree with me, saying that the game's been flattened out. If you look at Manly versus Newcastle, it was an absolute shellacking. Although we weren't affected by Origin or the Tigers, there was a shellacking there. We only had 5 games. They weren't exactly of high quality. And like I keep saying, like, imagine you're a Bronco supporter and sorry guys, you're going to get Reece Walsh for 8 weeks. Although you're coming 13th, you're just going to have to deal with Origin. So it's going to become push and shove eventually, because I had a suggestion tonight from someone saying, why don't we just have a one-off game, just a one-off go out there. All right, your state of Origin. Because as of Friday, no one's going to talk about Origin anymore. It's going to roll into who's going to make the semis and alike, and can the Broncos, because now the Broncos are in a situation where they can only drop one game for the rest of the season, and they're in dire area right now. Like it's, again, it's due to 5 of their stars being supplied to Origin, but. My thoughts on it.
Certainly has been a bit of a quiet build-up. I don't know if that's because no Sharks are involved, so I'm not paying as much attention as I normally would.
That's what I was thinking. But
it's not as tribal. We've talked about this. Like, league's not as tribal as it used to be. So it's not really us versus them. It's not really that, that sort of. I think it was Gordon Tallis was talking about, Newcastle not returning up for their rivalry game against Manly, but I'm like, well, that was from 1997, 94, 95. Like, that's 30 odd years ago. Like, most of those guys weren't born then. The guys are out there playing. Like, they don't know about that rivalry. And you look at the young bloke making his debut for Manly. He got signed by South. Like, he's off to South next season. So, like, there is no real tribalism anymore. There's not. That's sort of, you got the Newcastle guys going up against each other, which has happened plenty of times in Origin before. But I don't think it's really there anymore.
Yeah. Well, off the back of Latz's socials and CK's rattling around the league, Benjamin Turner has kicked in and he says the Beer, Food and Footy Festival is on at Henson Park for the Jets game next week, Newtown versus the Eels. So that should be good fun. Get down there. I always hear really good things about those rounds at Henson Park, and everyone has a blast. What were you going to say?
It's meant to be a pretty good, pretty jam-packed one this year too, being the 81 Grand Final replay. Plenty of food vendors on board. Beer will be flowing, and just a nice sunny day there at Henson Park. It'll be lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Get there if you can, guys. Support the team and see a few of the Sharkies up-and-comers running around the park as well. Win, win, win. All right. Are we ready for this? Are we gonna get into this one? Here we go. So
let's do it.
We have, as touched on by CK, Will Kennedy was hit with a grade 2 contrary conduct charge for colliding with referee Adam G. Punishment is 2 weeks or 1 with an early guilty plea. The Sharks accepted this and took the early plea, meaning we're going to be without Kennedy for the Cowboys match. I can only imagine that we were maybe tipped off by the NRL and said, don't bother, don't try, because you're not going to win this. We're going to throw everything at it. And we just went, thanks for the tip. We will accept the early plea. Because I can't imagine with all of, as both Lats and CK said, all the furor that was flying around about how crazy is that as a charge, why would that be a thing that we wouldn't have charged or gone against it? But we just said, yep, we'll take the 1. Thanks very much. And probably because we got a little bit inside info that it wasn't worth the fight. All right, CK, do you want to run us through what happened, what it was, scenarios around it, all of the good stuff?
Oh, God. I was going to go look up, and I should have done it beforehand. I apologise, but I should have looked up in regards to contrary conduct grade 2 charges. I should have really looked up. I don't know if someone's got time to have a quick Google of previous incidents. But grade 2 to me is quite harsh. Now, let's go through the incident. So I can see Franco's got the old screen grab, and it's quite, I wouldn't say aptly timed, but let's go with aptly timed. Because Ronaldo's made a break from all the way back on the own 10-metre line. You can see there he gets tackled on the 20 where he passed off the Ero. Ero makes the break there, and you can see on his outside is Braden Trindle where there's 3 Tigers. Brayley is passively offside as well. And then Will Kennedy hasn't hit his accelerated just as of yet. Adam G, before we even pause this screenshot, is still moving forward before he decides to stop directly in the line. This is when
just
Will actually runs into the referee because you can see where Will's looking. Go for it.
Brayley's not passively offside.
What do you mean? At that point in time, he's in front of the ball carrier.
Well, okay, at that point in time, but not for the play. So
the
as
play
soon as
is
the ball
involved.
passes him, he is live.
Not for the play, but I'm just
because-
showing it. I'm just showing how a screenshot works.
Okay. Yep. Good. All right.
But you're right.
How's that?
Jeez,
He is now
stop.
live.
Well, what I'm saying
So
is he can't pass the Brayley, right? Correct?
Yes, he can. Now he can.
Now he can. Kennedy needs to get between
Now he can.
Brayley
But he-
and the referee, and the referee's stopped and
The
popped
referee.
sideways straight to you, silly thunder, Kelly. And that is where the issue. It's completely accidental. I can see why they're saying that, in that apparently Kennedy at full speed has not taken due care. I haven't seen such a one-sided outflowing support for a Sharks player on a charge ever, I think. But you have to beg the question, if this was, let's say, James Tedesco, would he have been charged to start with? The answer is no. It's the influence of the referees, the influence of the clubs. And I suppose we've been seen as an easy target there. And also we've been seen like NRL judge, jury, executioner there, where they've given us the tip off. They could have taken our time, money, and player and said, challenge it and we'll get rid of you. But they've obviously given us a tip off and we've gone, no, there's no way we're going to win it because they're going to make a statement. I think you do need to set a standard in top level football of whatever code to let it filter down to the lower tiers. Like professional soccer, for example, is absolutely diabolical with its handling of the referees with regards to undue pressure or contesting things with the referee, right up to manhandling. You look at in the Premier League and it's just commonplace for players to get in a referee's face and even touch them. Like touching a referee in soccer or football, if you want to call it that way, is not a red card offence. Where you look at, was a blocker back in the day when he patted a referee on the head and got sent off. So I think we've got the right level there, but I think in this occasion, a bit of common sense in that regard. No, I didn't even... maybe because of the environment I was in, I don't remember even seeing it happen. I don't know how many people would have seen it. I don't even think that it was a talking point post-game in any of the post-game coverage. I don't think it was even a talking point until the next morning when the NRL goes, surprise, contrary conduct, grade 2, Will Kennedy. And I was like, sorry, what? What are you talking about? You go back and watch the tape in slow-mo and miss all these other things like the Luai incident recently and others, and yet you pick this one because I suppose if you look at it at the right angle, it does look bad, but I think it was an easy target for the NRL. And I don't think for what it's intending, I don't think it's going to create the same intent. I see what they're trying to do, but if you're trying to stop intimidation or kind of mishandling of referees, this isn't the occurrence that you need. You need, what you should have done is look at things like I'm going back to 2016 here, but the prelim final when Jonathan Thurston says you need to do your effing job to the referee, and it's picked up on the Fox coverage, and Andrew Voss and Greg Alexander are like, oh, did he just say that? How did he stay on the field? You need to focus on that stuff. Anyway, classic NRL.
I will say, and I am a little bit dirty on Brayley for this one. He is now onside. He is now live.
He's stationary.
He should be pushing up, looking for that. But if he had been moving, maybe Kennedy doesn't hit the ref, right?
Maybe.
That's what I'm going to say.
Obstacle. Yeah.
Not another obstacle. And for those listening, we had a bit of a chat that we the ref had fallen over, wouldn't be in the right position to call a try if we get through and break and score. Well, we've got one more shot here for Chris Kelly, who shows that not only did the ref get knocked over, but he got up and got closer to the ball carrier than either Brayley or Kennedy or Atkinson or anyone. So where were our guys there following up to try and get that offload or potential offload and see what happens?
Great point.
I don't know.
And Brayley actually ran the ball on the weekend for the first time in, since like the 2020 final against Canberra. But flat track bully or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, you're right. Adam G is the best referee in the game. How he's not been controlling Origin, let's say, it's a travesty. A few people are critical of him on the weekend. I don't think Adam G would have had any complaints over what happened with Kennedy. He's just got up and carried on. It's part and parcel. And if you look, it only just popped into my head just then, but you remember Tony De Los Heras getting given a good night's sleep from Tony Carroll's knee? Similar situation. Break up the middle. He's caught. That was in the days of two referees. He's gone, I better get moving here. And then unfortunately in amongst the jostling gets knocked over on his way up. His head collects the knee. So similar thing. Breaks and broken field play can
I'll give you another example. Carl Webb scoring a try. And as he's running through, pushes the referee literally out of the way in the dead ball area. But we go back to this one, and Franco's got the screenshot. I know him and Boldos spoke on genuine speedsters in our team. Kennedy's now hit the accelerator to back up one Kale Iro. And if Kennedy, like I backed him to score a try at any time during the match, gambled responsibly, would have caught this ball and streaked directly under the post to score an untouched try. If Adam G does not get in the way, maybe ducks like most referees does, or drop to the ground like he should have, because if Franco reckons he can get up quick enough, then do a quick burpee, Adam G, and get out of the way, and Will Kennedy will leap you and score a try under the post. Because if you go out to that screenshot where you put the referee,
get Adam G for a disruptor.
He now has to track another 10 metres. Yeah, total disruptor. But if you are an escort, if you now go Adam G, the tackle's now completed with another 15 minutes downfield, he's now got to get to the 45 to set the line, or 35 off the Tigers' line. So right now he's going to run another 11 metres, turn around, spin, and get the Tigers set. Correct?
Yeah.
So he's not in a position as a referee should be.
The reason why he's propped there is because we're coming across field, right? He is,
and where would you think
can't be in the way of the ball carrier. Can't be in the way of the ball carrier. So, Iro's coming across. So we've got to stop because, we've seen what other Sharkies players do, crabbing sideways, backwards, who knows where they're going. He's got to stop. He's got to give birth. And as the NRL rightly said, he can't disappear. Now, I think Ainsley's drawing a long bow in saying, we can't have a position where, lower graders put themselves between a ball carrier and a referee just so they can barrel them over because they've got a grudge to bear.
Yeah, I don't. Is it an issue in junior football right now? I don't think so.
I don't think in this scenario in junior football a player would get cited for that scenario. So, probably not. But if it is a thing, you know what? You do have to protect the refs. But again, in that whole hindsight catch-22 scenario, you can kick the ball at the ref and it's just a dead ball and replay the round.
Grand final 2019.
Yeah, so you could like belt the ball into a referee if you were so inclined and had a grudge. But I do think that it's if I shouldn't say it. I don't know why I'm going to say it, but if the NRL is consistent here, like you said, Williams, Tedesco doing something similar, then that's fine, right? They did say that, yes, we agree it was an accident, but so are most head-high tackles, right? They're not, the player is slipping and you catch them high. We're not saying you did it deliberately. It's still got to be punished. So
Tedesco in a prelim final.
Grade 1, he gets a fine and he gets to play again.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
Which
I think Annesley's trying to make it a blanket rule, a cookie cutter rule. It's not like each of these sort of situations have to be looked at on an individual basis. Some of them do have intent, but that was totally a mistake.
And the one who I agree with was Jerome Hughes in round 2 got suspended for the same thing. But he was in the defensive line on his own try line and pushed the referee out of the way to try and make a tackle. I thought it was harsh to cop a week for it, but in saying that, he knew what he was doing. He tried to say he didn't know what he was doing, who he was pushing across, but he knew who he was pushing across. This is not a situation where Kennedy's like, oi, mate, get out of the way. If you go and watch the video, and I watched it about 4 times before we jumped on air tonight, Kennedy at that 30-metre line hits the accelerator, stretch, and before you know it, it looks like Adam G in the video is going backwards. He stops that fast, like he's made a split decision to stop. Because
but not only that,
Franco said rightly,
Kennedy's had to step. Kennedy had to step Brayley, and as soon as he stepped Brayley, G's there and he hits him. He can't step again in the same step. The referee can't disappear, but neither can Kennedy.
And Kennedy walks away like hands down by his side, shaking his head, knowing if the referee doesn't happen, he scores a try under the post.
100%.
Like it's just
100%.
It killed momentum, and I understand. Like if it was like Franco said, if it hit the referee and say the play died back there, but he obviously played a bit of advantage, like it happens when you kick a ball into the ref, you pass to the ref, or the ref gets in the way. They usually call a dead ball, and unfortunately it's 6 again. But he was playing a bit of advantage. And credit to Adam G, like Franco said, he bounced back up and ran again. But mate, he's way out of position at this stage anyway. But yeah, it was one of those ones like Blatt said, there should have been a bit of common sense to it. It's not like Kennedy was looking at the referee and shoved him or he get out of the way. It wasn't like he grabbed his shorts, moved him to the side and said, move. Like it was just one of those ones. So, yeah, that's the thing that's riled me up as a grade 2. I understand if you've got a grade 1 and trying to set a little bit of example and here's a slap on the wrist, but come on.
Yeah, I got to agree. Grade 1 probably sets the same message, but isn't as ridiculous, especially with the outcry for what went on there. Ultimately, we accepted the ban, early guilty plea, and he's gone. So what does that leave us with? Okay, so we've got here a bunch of comments here. Let's go. We've got all right, Williams 2.0 comes in and says Atkinson to fullback and a Melbourne game style halves set up with either Macca or Brayley slotting into the halves. Boulderman comes in, he says Iro under the wing, Talakai in the centres, Ronnie or Katoa at fullback. We've got Paul has come in rebuttal to Boulderman saying he's talking rubbish once again with his Talakai agenda. Ronaldo to the centres, Stone Street to the wing, and Iro to fullback. He'll run for 300 metres. So that's a good one. We've got here Dan from Fins Up.
Ah, good. G'day, Dan.
Boys, it's Dan from Fins Up. My daughter changes my name, apparently. He then says that he heard a rumour that someone here wants Iro dropped for Talakai. Woof, shots fired. And then Paul kicks in. Where was Sifa playing when we were 9-1, gents? Pretty sure for a chunk of that he was in the centres. But anyway, and then we've got
it's all coming in
from Lachlan. He says, I think we should put Iro or young Stone Street at fullback. What do you guys reckon? All right.
Ooh, lots of options.
What do we reckon? Here we go. So
I give Dan a shout out for his Wolfie Fox Fury 1055.
So not there. Fury, mate. That's furry. But anyway,
Fox Fury. Sorry. Anyway, Dan from Fins Up. Good to have the cross content here.
You know what? Right. I started the side towards the old Talakai chat with Franco, but after a bit of a change to the lineup with Atkinson and Trindle, and finally Ronnie getting over for a hat trick, I'm kind of like going back the other way again because it's just that's what I was missing was the Ronnie. I was missing the Ronnie electric, the celebrations, he set up his third one himself. It was just that's all I wanted to see. Say, if it was going to change something, it was Ronnie to get more tries. Yeah, and most of it himself. There was a beautiful ball. There was a beautiful ball from Atkinson though. Yeah, and a try himself though.
Yeah, true. All right, so fullback options. Here are some potential fullback options that are unavailable. First of all, we've got Cade Dykes, who was ruled out with an ACL injury, gone for the season, unfortunately. So he's out. We then got Moini Hiroti, who has been everywhere for the Jets, including fullback, doing really well with an eye socket fracture. So he is gone. In some crazy alternate universe, Nico Hines might have been an option for fullback. I think we tested that out in 2002, and it didn't go so well. So he is probably firmly in the halves now. But as a potential option, he was there, but he's done a full syndesmosis, and he is gone. So
in 2002, Nico Hines was 6 years old. So in 2022.
22. Thank you very much, Williams.
And I think he was practicing high balls as well, Franco, and that's how he did his syndesmosis. So let's rule that out.
Yeah. There you go.
There's damn leaping coaches.
So then we've got Sam Stone Street, who is officially illness. So we'll grey him out a little bit and throw up some question marks. So we've got a bye coming up. Maybe he will be available by then. He was not named for the Jets this week. So he's, I guess, still technically out, but the Jets don't follow the same rules as the NRL. Maybe he gets popped in last minute. But as it stands, he's a question mark.
Franco, can I just jump in and just back Paul and Dan up here? They are right. Talakai didn't get dropped from centre until after that Tigers game the Sharks went on that run with Iro at centre. He was present for the wins over the Warriors and the Bulldogs early on in the season, though. But ever since that Tigers loss in round 3, Iro has been at centre.
Rightio. So was the Tigers match not the one of the 9?
I think he was dropped after that. Talakai was dropped from the centres after that Tigers game.
Was it a drop or injury induced? I know that.
It might have been an injury, actually.
He moved to cover injury.
Yeah. He was shifted and then not dropped.
Iro in.
Yeah.
Iro scored against.
And Iro has played there ever since. So they are correct on that one, the boys.
So for the Spotify listeners, Dan's come in. He says, no, he wasn't. He went after the Tigers game, which was the loss, the one of the 9, I assume. If I'm wrong, that's why Williams is our historian and not me. But I'm pretty sure that means he was there for at least a couple of the games in that streak that Boldo ruined by calling it a streak. Okay. Now, fullback options. Okay, we've got one game to see what we've got. And this is the spot we've got to fill. We've got our little shadow player there up the back and our regular back 4 plus our new halves pairing of Atkinson and Trindle. So what do we do to fill it out? Well, we've got a few options. We can move Iro in and put Talakai into centres. Boom. There you go, guys. That's what all our commenters want to see. Talakai in the centres, but also maybe Iro at fullback. So we're keeping everyone happy. So that is an option, okay?
That's what you call win-win.
It is. Everyone's happy with that one. So that's a scenario that we could play. Next, we've got a scenario of putting Ronaldo in the centres and Tom Rodwell in on the wing. Now, I don't see that happening because, as we saw last week, there we go. Yep.
Looks like Dan from Fins Up has just unsubscribed. It's been suggested as option number 2. Dan's suggestion was, comment was, can I just say, if anyone here suggests Tom Rodwell comes in anywhere, I'm unsubscribing. Well, sorry, Dan. I'll see you on Fins Up tomorrow night. But
we're not suggesting. We're laying out options.
We're not suggesting. These are just scenarios.
Dan responds with "Been fun, gents."
Let Franco cook. He's doing these graphics. He's killing it.
I'll get back to Franco with his graphics.
Franco,
option number 2.
Before you do, mate,
happening.
I have heard some whispers in the socials of a debutant making their debut on the wing. Whether that is a household surname in rugby league. Whether that be Rodwell, I'm not too sure, but. I don't know how much traction that has, but that's what I've read.
Golly.
I don't know who else we could put in as a debutant on the wing, but that has a name.
Has a household name.
Yeah.
How's Healy go on the wing?
In this scenario, as I said, highly unlikely due to the fact that he was not put in due to in that last match where Atkinson played on the wing. So probably not a case here, but in this one, you could probably interchange Tom for Stone Street if Stone Street goes from question mark to available. In this scenario, obviously, you've got various flavors, and whatever your poison is, you're welcome to take it. You can swap Mulatalo to the back and put Iro back into the centers. So, we've seen Mulatalo hot and cold at fullback. Lately, I guess he's been pretty good, making a few breaks, linking up with Kennedy. So maybe it'd be tempting for some, but that is an option as well. Then
those hands terrify me.
Then we've got the same scenario of playing with the same flavors or two sides of the same coin. Bring Talakai back into the centers and push Iro out onto the wing. So that is another option that we could play with. Obviously, Talakai could teach Iro how to support his outside man and get some try assists. Oh, geez. Get that hook out there. Let's go. How are you going with that one, Dan? All right. And then and then what we've got here is, and it was mentioned in the comments, is moving Atkinson to fullback and put Cam McInnes or probably, Brayley. It doesn't really matter. Jack Williams, someone there in partnering with Trindle, a la the Storm match, and see how we go. Ronaldo, Mulatalo, and Kale Iro are interchangeable there, but obviously you would switch them back. Now, one that I didn't mention there, I didn't have a picture to put in there, is young Liam Eason that people have been talking about in the Jets. Obviously, he scored a hat-trick on the weekend. He's doing well, doing everything he can. He's a bit of a light body, but, if we're playing the next man up, then, he might be in for a shot. It is only one match. If Fitzy wants to see what he's got against first graders at full speed, then this would be an opportunity to give him a bit of a taste of first grade. So there's a bunch of scenarios. Have I missed any? Are there any that you like? What are you picking? What is your recommendation? And apparently, if you now recommend Tom Rodwell on the wing, we lose a subscriber.
I'll jump in first and say I'm just hoping Liam Eason. I hope that's his pronunciation. Eason sounds like Liam Neeson, so we can call him Qui-Gon Jinn for the Star Wars fans. Looking to see him get a run. Dan from Fins Up has also put in a few options. You'd ask for more there, Franco. So Chris Vaiella, I think is the pronunciation of Viliami's brother fame. Also, Eason is a famous surname with Ison being the correct pronunciation. There's a lot of options there. I'd be leaning towards going a next man up mentality so as not to throw the back line out of whack. We saw what happened to the Tigers on the weekend. We're going up to North Queensland. The Cowboys are desperate for a win. If we throw, and they can score points despite having an off season. I could just see it going really bad if we start plugging and if we make more than one, maybe two changes, it really unsettles the side, I think.
Lats, thoughts?
Yeah, mate. To be honest, Franco, I was given his such safe hands. I was very surprised to see Jack Williams not get a mention for fullback. No, just kidding.
Poor buggers.
Mate's best case scenario for mine would be Stone Street to the wing. And Ronnie to fullback, given how safe Ronnie is under the high ball. But I can see merit in Iro to the which SJD said with Iro to fullback and Talakai to the centres. We know Talakai can play there. We're not saying we're not saying he should stay there. It's a one game thing. Paul's had a couple of comments come through there, Franco, after you mentioned Talakai in the centres, and I don't know if you've given Paul a stroke or something. Franco's PI. I'm not. Franco's purely trolling. There we go for our Spotify listeners. But I think the safest bet would be Stone Street to the wing, given he's fit, and Ronnie to the back.
Yeah, and I guess it's worth mentioning because didn't call it out loud. But Kale Iro, for those unaware, did play fullback during the World Cup. So he has a bit of experience there. Didn't do poorly, was pretty good when he was back there. So, it's not like we're throwing someone in there that hasn't played there. Obviously doesn't have as much experience as some other options, but, we're a bit skinny when it comes to fullback depth, especially with the few injuries that we mentioned earlier on. Look at this, bit of praise for Lats there. 100% Lats is on the money from Ryan. All right, CK, you've been a bit quiet, mate. What's your choice?
Yeah, I find it a bit strange, like you touched on before against the when we lost the game the other week against the Titans, that Stone Street wasn't the straight plug-in and they decided just to put Atkinson on the wing. I know Atkinson's played a bit of 6, a bit of 1, a bit of wing and all those sort of positions. So that was my first thought, was to put Atkinson there. But I was like, well, he's doing so well on the 6. We don't want to weaken that position. In a perfect world for Boulder, we could put Cam McGuinness back to 1, but we won't do that. I can't see another situation where I move Ronnie anywhere else because his twin actually did the exact same thing that he does and likes to come in off his wing. So I don't want him in the centres where a lot of defensive work has to happen.
He spends most of his time there anyway, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, most of his time in the centres. His next option was, I thought Rodwell not really on the money. It's so far away from teams, and he hasn't actually been setting the world on fire in Reggie's as much as Stone Street has. Iro, quite solid at fullback. I wouldn't, blink if he was put there just for that one game that Kennedy's got to miss. But doing the deep dive, Ison is the guy for me. Like I said, scored a hat-trick on the weekend. If you go back, he was in that red-hot Flegg Panthers team where they won all 3 grades from reserves to first to Flegg. And the highlights, I remember watching him, and I went back and watched it again today. He's pretty solid at fullback. Yeah, he's a bit smaller, but I think we should learn from that Atkins mistake and maybe even Franco's Talakai suggestions where we should be playing. We keep talking about we've got so much depth. We should be playing the blokes in those positions positions. You know, it's a situation that New South Wales keeps finding themselves in. We put Latrell in the centres and Turbo in the centres and Gufferson in the centres and God knows there were Jack White and 5 other positions. Let's stick with players who are playing in those positions that are trying to make do. So, Ison for me. He's a good young kid. Why not make your debut going up against the Cowboys up in North Queensland? And all the boys around him, they love watching his highlights. So, straight swap.
Yeah. The only thing that worries me about that is you don't want to bring a player in too early if they're not ready. And you saw how patient Fitzy was with Hero. He got a run, sort of buckled under the high ball a bit, was a bit clunky in his first game, and then just brought him into the game. I think Fitzy knows when they're ready, and I think that'll be where the decision comes from, is whether Ison's ready or not. So you just don't want to see him come in too early and shatter their confidence.
It's a really good point. Looking at Dan from FinzUp's comment, talking about Hero to fullback, he says he'll run for 350 metres. Is handsome like Dylan Edwards with a much better hairline, like much better. Good comment there. But they do watch, so the FinzUp guys, I've listened to them recently, they do watch a lot of Newtown. They went to Newtown a few weeks ago. They were talking about Rodwell. Rodwell is not up to first grade standard. He's barely up to reserve grade standard from what I've heard. I haven't watched any Newtown, but that's just what I'm conveying from there. That would actually maybe align with someone playing on the wing, hopefully not Rodwell, but it might align with someone going back to wing, so back from somewhere in their back line to fullback, i.e. Hero, maybe, hopefully, agree on the ice in front. If he's not ready, don't force him. We've seen what has happened to players in the past. So, wait and see. And, agree with Ryan. Fullback is a risky proposition to throw a young debutant in. Definitely under the high ball and the like. The thing I was mentioning about Ronnie's hands before, he's fine under the high ball. It's the unforced error. It's the whether it's the over exuberance or just brain farts or inattention, but he just drops it so often unforced. Does the big let's challenge that, like very first tackle against the Roosters in the quarterfinal last year, and just turns it over when we least need it. So
on the
that
weekend
doesn't change really
well.
if he's on the. It doesn't change if he's on the wing or fullback, I suppose, with that, and did it again on the weekend. So, So anyway, there's a bit of trivia there from you.
I'll just say one thing that with the Ison or even with the Hero going back there, at least we godsend with the bye that we've got a bit of time to work on this. You know, we can see where everyone's at. They can sort of come in and do the training, see what happens. So it's probably an ideal situation. So let's see what happens.
Give Stone Street a chance to get over his virus and
better to do this. Better do this now than like heading into week 1 of the finals with a 5-day or 6-day turnaround. Also, too, this virus for Stone Street, I hope he's okay. I know there's a lot going around like now, whether it's bad COVID or bad flu or whatever, but it does seem to be that he's been greyed out, for want of a better term, for a few weeks now, given that he was not in contention for the match against the Titans a few weeks ago. So I'll just answer the SJD's trivia quickly. I don't know, but off the top of my head, I know Martin Raftery scored 4 tries. That may have been the 70s, so I'll let SJD tell me.
Wild footy coach.
It wasn't one of our top wingers. It wasn't our top wingers combination.
Who are we talking about? Yeah, so maybe.
Does that mean you know the answer, CK?
I think it was before Rick Burke's time.
I'll go back to my notes, but it was one of the guys that I had my winging combinations in the 60s. So,
okay, I'll leave that with you. Anyway, SJD will,
was a tough one.
Correct me.
So I guess from my perspective, everyone knows I like seeing the juniors get a go and prove their wares. So Ison for me. Sure, I'll throw in the caveat of Latz and Williams that if Fitz doesn't think he's ready, then maybe don't. But I'd like to see him get a go. It's that next man up. He's been there for the Jets now for most of the season, thanks to Dykes' injury, and even before the ACL, Dykes was a bit in and out as well. So I think he's doing well. He's also a big support player. He's not so much on those sweep plays. He's more down the middle, following the ball carrier, which would go well for us at this point in time, the way we're playing. We don't have to, get him to do anything different or try to get him to chime in on those sweep plays. We can just work around that, I think. That said, and again, assuming that Stone Street is out injured, I got to say, guys, I'm putting Talakai into the centres and shifting either Hero or Mulatalo to fullback.
You were doing that anyway.
Paul's coming in hot, mate.
There we go, Paul. Come at me, brother.
We're losing subscribers as we go on.
Paul has said that Ison is 12 months away, which may be correct. While Dan,
which is then followed up by by Dan, who says Ison is 100% the shout, gents. Otherwise, Iro to fullback, Chris Vela into the centres, was 18th man last weekend.
I was going to suggest that he was the 18th man on the weekend against the Tigers, because Boldo was like, with his tears, he's like, who was that guy? And I was like, I had to explain to him who he was. So.
He probably thought it was
well for his limited minutes in the preseason cup too. So that was that. All right, lads. So that was Kennedy and the fullback scenario. Good chat. Obviously, if you guys aren't live, drop some love in the bottom or some hate mail, whatever you feel.
SJD, where are you? You're killing me with your suspense.
Yeah,
Great
whatever is needed to fill out that conversation and have your say, add your 2 cents. Now, our last show and tell, the other host produced a memorable piece of memorabilia in the form of an original King One menu. It's been too long between meals, so here we are again with our follow-up from Lats. What have you got for us, mate?
All right, mate. It was a sunny Sunday afternoon back in, I think, 1990 or 1991 down at Shark Park on the old wooden seats. When halfway through the first half, my mum gets a tap on the shoulder from some random bloke saying, at halftime, I want to take your son up the tunnel. And my mum said, I beg your pardon? And he goes, he's been selected to receive a ball. And my mum's like, come again? Anyway, so we were playing Canberra at the time. His mum's marched me over at halftime, and I got to go out in the field. I was Mal Meninga was injured. He presented us with a Sharks leather signed Steeden, which smells bloody amazing.
Oh, yes. I was going to ask the smell. Tell me it still smells.
Oh, sensational. There's signatures on there. They are very hard to read. You can see them. There's some greats. I've got the great father of our coach, Alan Fitzgibbon, on there, E.T., Alan Wilson, Barry Russell's on there. This was an awesome day. I got in the leader, which was amazing. Got an article. I don't know where that is. Mum's probably chucked that out as well. But yeah, so that was a pretty special day. Mum was reluctant to let me go because she thought I was being targeted. But yeah, it was just pretty awesome getting to go down the tunnel and getting to go into the sheds. And I was only 10 at the time, and there was about 10 of us that were selected, and got to go out in the middle of the field at halftime and get a Sharkies leather Steeden signed, which is amazing.
Nice. Did you pump it up and use it, or is it?
I'm too. No, I never used it. It sat in the cabinet at home. I gifted it to my nephew a few years back, but I'm even too scared to pump it up in case just the coating falls off it or something. It's pretty aged and weathered, but it's never been thrown around. So it's pretty special little thing.
Yeah, good.
It's very cool, man. Very cool indeed. So 1 of 10 is what you're telling us.
It's 1 of 10, yeah. So I don't know how many of them are still about, but it's a full size, genuine leather supporters ball.
I love it. All right. Well, we'll have more show and tells to come. See if we can beat that. Yeah, it's pretty good, mate. Pretty good. And the
I've
story
got an
to
answer
boot.
for SJD's trivia as well. He may be a bit behind tonight given the lack of. So the question for me was, which Sharks player scored 4 tries in game for us in the 60s? I incorrectly answered Martin Raftery and said that it was too early for Rick Burke, and both those, yes, were incorrect. Martin Raftery was in 1976 in a match against South Sydney where we won 39-5. Rick Burke did it on 2 occasions, once, both in 77. Once, actually didn't quite count, a 75 points to 3 win over Central Queensland in a some kind of outside of New South Wales Rugby League competition. And then the other was in a 45 points to 12 win over Newtown. But the winner was, do you remember, Chris Kelly? One more reference to you. It was a winger, I believe it was.
Yeah,
anyway.
it was a winger. It was in my top 5. I just can't recall.
Yeah. So it happened in 1968. It was also against Newtown. Newtown 11, Cronulla Sharks 36, John Money. So thank you, SJD. I definitely got schooled there. But we know that David Balderman never schools me on trivia, so I'm happy to be schooled by SJD and not
he's
our
the
fearless
coach.
leader who regularly doesn't know his stuff when it comes to trivia. But thanks for his faith when he realises Williams 1.0 rather than 2.0 feeding the information. Sorry to
That's what happens when you get all your info through ChatGPT, mate.
Yeah, true. How many premierships have we got on that? Have we got 3 or 4?
Dan from Fins Up says he's got to bail out, boys, but Talakai forever. Great stuff as always.
Rodwell forever.
Spotify listeners
Rodwell
won't know the
forever.
difference,
He's,
right?
he's unsubscribed 5 times now.
No, he says Iro forever. So yeah,
Yes.
clearly a fan. Certainly loves Iro. And you know what? He's on fire, so why not? Well, guys, thanks very much, Williams, Lats, Kelly. It's a great show as usual. Anything you guys want to add before we move on? I hear you met a Sharks player this week, Williams.
Oh yeah, I had some fun. So out in Orange on a bit of a weekend away. It was myself and some friends. I was with a mate who's a Knights fan, another mate who's a Bulldogs fan. We're going to some wineries on a very cold Saturday. It was about 3 degrees. It was freezing. And one of my mates had organised it. He said, "Oh, you won't be allowed at the next winery." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Mortimer's." I'm like, "Didn't put 2 and 2 together." And he's like, "They've got heaps of Bulldogs gear there." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And he said, "Yeah, isn't there that ex-Sharks player, Dan Mortimer, plays there?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, he does too." Oh, so doesn't play there, works there. So lo and behold, he's running the tastings there. And I just, Lauren, my wife's going, "Is that the guys?" "Yes." I said, "Oh, yeah, it's Sharks great Daniel Mortimer." And he kind of looked at me funny. And then I was standing in their kind of entryway. They've got some of his dad. I'm having a mind blank here, but Mortimer. Peter Mortimer runs the winery there. Mortimer's winery out in Orange for the last 30 years or so, post playing. And I mentioned to Dan, he's walking past, said, "Where's your Sharks memorability?" He's like, "Oh, you weren't taking the P there." And I was like, No, I was serious. I'm a Sharks fan, and got on you for your 2 games back in 2017. And he's just straight away, without even like put the bottle of wine down that he was about to take to some people outside, and we started chatting for about 10 minutes. It's fantastic, talking about his time with the club. So the plan was he'd obviously started with the Eels, a breakout season in 2009. They made the grand final, went to the Roosters, won the grand final for them with them off the bench in 2013, then went to the Gold Coast and got really injury plagued, played only about 14 matches over 3 seasons, had every injury under the sun, and then was trying to go to England to finish his career, but no one over there would sign him until he could prove his fitness. So he joined the Sharks post premiership, basically for reserve grade, just to kind of prove that he could get some matches together before moving across. We had a bit of an injury and Origin affected period mid-season. We had 5 guys in Origin. You guys may remember we were there, Tigers game, 24-22 win at Shark Park. He came in, we had heaps of players out. Kurt Capel scored a double, and he straight away was talking about, he came in, set up the winning try for Jason Bakuya, but also set up a few of Kurt Capel's tries and the like off the bench at hooker. And I did mention, I said, because by this stage, everyone's giving me heaps going, "Oh, Matty's on a podcast," and rah, rah, rah. And I said, well, we had talked at side point, who are the best Sharks players to play one game? And Mortimer's, I said, your name kept coming up, but you played a second game. And he said, yeah, that he was planning on only playing one game. He'd been signed by Lee. He was off, ready to go. And then there was a bit of a logistics change with the flights and stuff. And then it turned out, hey, the Sharks, you can play one more game. Do you want to play? And so there was back and forth between Lee and the club. So he did. So we played Manly the following Sunday at Shark Park and got absolutely belted. And I'm just paraphrasing here from Danny Mortimer. He said, obviously, Brayley got his jaw broken by, who was it in there, plays for the Warriors, Dylan Walker. And then the club was inquiring, going, "Oh, can you stay?" And he said by that stage, he said he was committed to going to the UK, committed to going playing for Lee, even though he enjoyed his time at the club, even though it was brief. And off he went. But great experience. He did enjoy his time there, but obviously he went and had a 2-year holiday in Europe with his wife. They just got married. So yeah, good times. Really great guy. He's out there helping his dad out run the winery there. He's a PE teacher by trade as well. So yeah, it was an interesting little 10-minute segue there, just chatting away. So yeah, good. His memory is lit. He was going into detail about the events that happened in the match, a lot more than mine was. Obviously, he played it. I was only just a spectator there, probably several beers deep. So, but yeah, good times. So, awesome.
That is very cool. Very cool. Very good stuff. Good to hear. All right. Well, I guess next week we'll have our regular Tuesday show where we preview the Sharks against the Cowboys. We might see if we have something else that we can put up between now and then. I think Boldo said he's working on something to apologise to the fans that he couldn't make tonight's show. Don't know what that is, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. Williams, I imagine you've got some classic Chronicles homework to prepare as well. There's probably a few good options to pick from for against the Cowboys, I imagine. Is any previews there?
Certainly, as John Money was the answer. Thanks, SJD has confirmed. For next week, I haven't chosen a match yet. Bonus question: what's Trump's favorite Fat Boy Slim song? We'll keep politics out of this, but anyway,
we did that pre-show. We're skipping that. We're skipping that.
Right here, right now.
Right here, right now is the answer. That's a good
one. Well played.
Never too soon. On the Chronicles front, haven't chosen a match yet, but there's plenty of good ones up in Townsville. So if anyone wants to throw out a suggestion, there's been some suggestions of the 2014 loss in Golden Point with the Daniel Holdsworth 2-point field goal that wasn't a 2-point field goal. He kicked it from about 48 metres out. That would be a good one. I'm not into covering losses yet. We'll exhaust the category first before we start looking at those ones. So move from there. But there will be one coming to your screen next Monday night.
Very good. Looking forward to that. Excellent stuff. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for hanging with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you've missed the show live, drop some comments down below and let us know your thoughts on the Sharks, how we're going, the season in general, and anything about Kennedy, which was certainly a hot button topic. Everyone has their own thoughts on who should play where, how we should go, why we didn't fight the charge. Let us know. I'm sure we could probably cover some more on that during the bye week next week. And see how we go. But until then, lads, everyone, fans, up Cronulla.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.